Now, Ivani is someone who comes from a tradition that's not Afro-Cuban. It's actually from the Brazilian tradition. So, Ivani, can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to the religion and then how you got out of it?
Yes, I was actually born into it. I was born in Brazil. My family, my mother's side of the family came from Spain, her grandparents, with already beliefs in Spiritism. My father's side of the family, who came from Italy to Brazil, his grandmother was a healer who practiced what they call it's a healing type of witchcraft, but the white witchcraft. So I was born into this belief system, which is very common in Brazil. Most everyone in Brazil will call themselves a Catholic. Uh, Now there is more. The evangelical movement has taken over, thank God. But in the '60s, when I was growing up in Brazil, it was primarily Catholic, and I believe Brazil is still the largest Catholic country in the world. So we called ourselves Catholics, but we were all practicing spiritists. My great my maternal grandparents were both mediums, and which the practice was type of a seance type of thing, where they became possessed by their spirit guides and gave healing, type of similar to Santeria, but not with the orishas. It was mostly the light spirit guides, of light. So they were sought after for healing and things like that. They always gave the healing, the energy passes, and so on. And by the way, I am getting a little bit ahead of myself, but this is very common here in the United States now. And there are many areas that you can go to for these healing passes. And I'm a nurse, I'm a registered nurse, so I know that it's very strongly incorporated into the medical system now as alternative medicine. This type of the energy passes, energy healing, which is spiritual deceitfulness. And everyone that gave the testimony talked about it's all the same. It doesn't matter if you call it Santeria, voodoo, spiritism, whatever it is. It's a counterfeit religion from what Christ wants us. We don't. Jesus Christ is not a religion; it's a relationship. So we, I never knew the real Jesus. It's you mentioned that earlier, James, and some of the other guests, that you follow a different Jesus. It's not. We always claim to believe in Jesus and God, but not the God of the Bible, not the real Jesus Christ, which is also, as you all know, they talk about Jesus and God and Santeria and all these other false religions. So I grew up in this environment of spiritism, going to the seance type of healing services. But what happened right from infancy until I was delivered from this belief system, I saw spirits. I was able to see into the spirit realm, and as a child, it was pretty terrifying, to see these mostly shadowy figures, which we called vultus, which are here they call shadow people. It's just humanoid figures that roamed around, and I saw them night and day and night. And I did have psychic abilities as a young child. So to my family, it was a gift. And we all practiced it, but it was considered a gift at this young age to be able to see into the spirit realm. And I was considered like a magnet to these spirits that needed to go to the light. That's what we believed, that you would be able to help the lost spirits that were roaming the earth that didn't know they were dead, to help them move on to another level. We did believe in reincarnation and so forth. Uh, Moving forward, we came to the United States in 1968. I continued to see, that never changed. It didn't matter if I was in school or playing outside or at home. I still saw spirits all the time. I did have some occasions where I saw actual manifestation of a spirit as a real person. So we believe these to be spirits of, great grandfather or someone that had passed, which now we know that, and I think that that's where the fail comes. A lot of Christians still believe in ghosts. A lot of Christians still believe in, spirits of the dead among us, and that's not biblical. James mentioned, everything that we believe needs to be grounded on the Bible, and the Bible says once, after you die, there's judgment. There's no hanging around here on earth. So that's the counterfeit teachings of the demons, and all these religions are demonic, and there are no ghosts, there are no spirit of the dead among us. There are demons manifesting as your grandmother, your grandchild, whatever, and they know more than we do. They're very intelligent beings that have been here before we were even created, so they know everything about our past. So that's how people say, how can a medium tell you something that nobody else knows, or something that happened in the past? Or because they were there, they saw it, and they can just communicate it through that person. That's like a channel that's receiving that message from that demon. And I don't even like, they're spirits, but evil spirits. So when I moved to the United States, I lived here for 5 years. When I was 14, we returned to Brazil, my sister and my 2 cousins, and to live with my grandparents. And I continued to have the spiritual problems. They said, you are not being attacked. It's just the spirits want to communicate through you because you have the gift and you need to develop as a medium. So my grandmother wanted me to continue on with the seance type of religion, which we called white table, Mesa Blanca. And I was a teenager. I was 14, and I didn't want anything to do with it. And my 2 aunts, who were not too much older than I am, were involved in Umbanda, which is what James explained earlier, an offshoot from the Yoruba Ifa faith. So Umbanda was created in Brazil in the 1800s, and it's a syncretism, mixture of Catholicism, Spiritism, and the Yoruba Orisha pantheons. So we worshipped all the same gods that anyone that Santeria or Voodoo, they worship. Very similar, not exactly the same, but very similar. In Brazil, there's also Candomblé, which is from directly from Yoruba. And again, the reason these religions came to Brazil was through the slave trade. So the slaves brought with them from West Africa the Yoruba religion, and it went through all the Americas, the Caribbeans, and so forth. And James explained that very well already, but a lot of people don't understand how it got mixed with Catholicism. It's because, again, the slave masters didn't allow the slaves to practice their own faith, so they incorporated that, and they worshipped saints that were related to their gods, to their orishas, which are their gods. And so when I was 14, I returned to Brazil, and I was introduced to Umbanda, which is very similar to Santeria. Went into the temple. Immediately, I was told that I had, my spirit guide. There's several spirit guides. You have different lines of spirits. And the head, like James explained, the head guide was Iemanjá, which is the goddess of the sea. And that was just, I fell in love with you mentioned drums, there was drumming and singing and clapping and dancing and flowers and incense and candles, and everyone in that circle, and that we all wore white with beads, that the beads, the colors had to do with what kind of orisha you were representing. So I just fell in love with this religion. I became developing as a medium and would become possessed by these spirits we thought were our spirit guides from the
Yeah.
Odisha lines.
If I can
So
ask you
as
real quickly,
young as 14, I was becoming possessed in the temple. As 2 years went on before my parents came back to Brazil, I was baptized in a waterfall. That was part of the ritual. You become, you go under the waterfall and you receive your entity, your spirit guide, and so forth. Same thing that was mentioned by practically everyone. You what is the word? You give. There was no animal sacrifices in Umbanda, but you do offerings of candles and flowers, perfume, things like that on the ocean, on the rivers. So there was a lot of nature worship. So it's a big mixture of New Age and everything is mixed in together. So it was part of my heritage, part of my life, my entire life. I grew up with it, and my husband's family as well. He's from Brazil. I met him here in America, but he grew up the same way. So until I was 38 years old, that's what I believed, and that's what I practiced. And I rejected Christianity like it was the worst thing that anyone could ever say was Christianity. I thought they were horrible people, judgmental, and the Bible was terrible. I never believed in the Bible. And it's a long story, but my parents owned a little printing shop in Kissimmee, Florida, and a pastor came from Brazil. He was his name is Alexandre Obelander. He lives in Rio de Janeiro right now, but he came as a missionary pastor from the Methodist Church, and he came into the shop to make some business cards, and there was a sign that we spoke Portuguese. My sister was at the counter. There were a lot of things going on in my sister's life at the time, and he prayed with my sister, and she accepted Christ right there. She was open to it, and my family liked him and started talking to him, and he started preaching the gospel. And when I met him, I was like, get me away from this man. I don't want to be anywhere near. I was repulsed. It was what was in me. I was possessed. And he, not coming from our culture, he discerned right away what was going on and that I was possessed. And I had never heard of, I didn't believe in demons or we didn't believe in heaven or hell. We believed in reincarnation and, recycling and so forth. And when he talked about the Bible, I rejected it because I did not believe in the Bible. So after quite some time, in prayer, there were two instances. The first one was freaked my family out because I was very rude to him. I wanted to leave, and he said, "Okay." Well, he was trying to witness to me, and I was rejecting it. And he said, "Okay, I'm going to pray before I leave." And he prayed, and when he started praying, I became possessed. And that's when my family started thinking, "Okay, this is horrible." My husband was telling me I was distorted, and I'm thinking all that happened was I received my spirit guide, Yemanja, and I kind of blacked out. You come and go into consciousness when this happens, and I was angry with everyone. And then my family begged me to let him come into the house because we're still believing, oh, maybe these spirits are in the house. The house needs to be cleansed, not realizing that I was possessed. And he came to the house and he prayed again, and the same thing. And I didn't want to believe or accept any of this until my son, who was a teenager at the time, he witnessed from a loft myself becoming possessed, and it scared him to death. And he begged me to let the pastor come, and he was talking about deliverance. I never heard about deliverance. I didn't know what that was. And like I said, I never read the Bible. And he came, and I did go through the process of deliverance. And After that, I accepted Christ, and I literally know what it means to be born again, because from that moment on, I Christ came into my life. And not that my life is perfect, no one is, but I just don't know how I survived 38 years without Christ, and my almost my entire family converted.
Thanks so much for watching that clip. If you want to see the full episode, click right here. God bless.